The Democratic leader.
Mr. President, I thank my colleagues for coming to the floor. Wait, we'll put this up when we begin. Okay. We'll leave it up. All right. I thank my colleagues for coming to the floor all day today. I thank them for speaking so fiercely, so clearly about what's at stake for the country. And the American people deserve to see this debate. That's why we last night forced a reading of the bill. Republicans don't want people to know what's in the bill. They want to hide it. They know it's not popular. We all know it's not popular. We all know it's totally against what people want. But a small cabal of very wealthy people and hard MAGA people run that show to the detriment of the party itself and, of course, to the American people. So we forced a reading of the bill last night and allowed people to catch up because the bill was just put on the floor right before the reading started, the amended bill. So we're here today to continue to shine a light on how bad this bill is, and this debate will continue. Soon we'll turn to vote-a-rama and bring amendment after amendment after amendment to the floor so Republicans can defend their billionaire tax cuts, so they can try to explain their massive cuts to Medicaid to people back home, why kids who need health care shouldn't get it so there can be tax breaks for billionaires, why middle-class families who have someone in a nursing home who's now going to be removed from that nursing home because it's going to close, what they're going to do, and to try and to sell to parents and kids why they're making unprecedented cuts to SNAP, taking food from hungry babies for a tax cut for wealthy people. What kind of world do these Republicans live in? It's a slanted world. It's really a corrupt world. Kids will get $5 a day to feed themselves. You can't buy a dozen eggs for $5. And then they're killing millions of good-paying jobs. It's estimated, and by the way, the clean energy cuts are even worse. Before this, it was estimated 850,000 jobs would be lost in America on clean energy alone. Over 1 million jobs in health care. 2 million jobs approximately lost, at least 2 million lost because of this bill. That could create a recession. So this has been a long few days in the Senate, but the hardest choices for Republicans are still in front of them, because we know that so many of our colleagues on the other side aren't happy with this bill. Tillis is not an exception. There are many others who think the same way he does. Well, they ought to vote their principles, their conscience, and what's good for their constituencies. Our side is going to give our Republican colleagues a chance to do the right thing in front of this chamber and in front of this nation. The American people deserve to know exactly what's happening right now in the United States Senate, because right now, Republicans are concocting the ultimate rush job. They're trying to pull off a sneak attack on this chamber and on the American people themselves. The bill before the Senate is utter poison. Some Republicans are trying to rush through a bill that they released less than 2 days ago under the cloak of darkness, written behind closed doors, molded in order to appease Donald Trump and the very special, powerful interests. Earlier today, my colleague from South Carolina came to the floor with a pretty interesting-looking floor chart, where he claimed that his bill somehow reduced the debt by $500 billion. What a joke. The budget chair respectfully needs to check his math, because somehow Lindsey Graham, the chairman of the Budget Committee, said that his bill reduces the debt by $500 billion. The budget chair, respectfully, check your math, Chairman Graham, because not 1 hour ago, the JCT confirmed this bill does not reduce the debt, it explodes it. It explodes it. That's what it does. Here's what his chart should have looked like. $4.45 trillion deficit explosion. According to the JCT, the Republican bill explodes the debt by $4.5 trillion, as this chart, drawn slightly better than Lindsay's, shows. For those keeping score at home, my colleague got his math wrong by a whopping $4 trillion. All this, just so billionaires are rewarded while millions lose their health care break. $4.5 trillion deficit explosion. And that's not just an abstract concept. What does that mean? The average American will pay more to buy a home. The average American will pay more to buy a car. The average American will pay more on their credit card debt, on issue after issue after issue. Prices will go up because of this deficit, because of taxes for the billionaire. That's $4.45 trillion. Also, some people, wealthy people, God bless them, they made a lot of money, okay. They don't need a tax break. Let it be known that this bill is the death knell of the supposed party of fiscal responsibility. We always knew that this was a sham. And now this bill ends the charade of Republicans caring about the debt for all time coming. When they say they have to cut health care on any bill or food stamps on any bill because it reduces the deficit, we will know it's utter hogwash because of $4.5 trillion they're doing now for tax breaks for the wealthy. So, Republicans want to move quickly. That's why we're here on the weekend. That's why they released a bill in the dead of the night, all because they want to hide the truth from the American people. You know, it's hard to believe, my colleagues, this bill is worse, even worse, than any draft we have seen thus far. Every time the bill comes to the floor, a new bill, a new amendment, the hard right handful over on the Republican side, we're not voting for it unless you hurt kids more, you hurt people who need health care more, you hurt rural hospitals more, you hurt clean energy more. And the Republican leadership folds and does it. And the handful of more mainstream Republicans who know how bad this is right now haven't had the backbone to oppose those changes. We hope they find them. So, this bill is worse on health care, worse on SNAP. It'll kill 900,000 good-paying jobs in clean energy. Folks, you don't like paying your electricity bills? You'll pay 10% more on your electric bills because of this big, ugly betrayal. It'll also kill 1 million health care jobs. You put it all together, and there's no other way to put it. At the very last minute, the Senate Republicans made the bill more extreme to cater to the radicals in the House and the Senate. Republicans want to hide the truth so badly, in fact, that they're even ready to blow up the Senate rules to get it done. Senate Republicans are doing something that has never been done before in this chamber, never, by Democrats or Republicans, using fake math and budgetary hocus pocus to make it seem like a gargantuan tax break for billionaires is going to cost virtually nothing. That's insane. It's delusional. Current policy baseline doesn't take into account that our actual budget numbers show these cuts expiring. So when you put them back up again, the deficit increases. It's simple math, second-grade math. But our colleagues, just again, in a frenzy to help the billionaires, are willing even to do that. Republicans know it. That's why they're squirming. You can see sort of the faces come on the floor. They don't look very happy because they know how bad this stuff is. And they can use whatever budgetary gimmicks they want. Republicans can use whatever budgetary gimmicks they want to make their math work on paper. But you can't paper over the real consequences of adding trillions and trillions to the debt in one fell swoop. And CBO, nonpartisan, everyone who looks at this says it's going to increase the deficit. Not the so-called party of deficit hawks. That's out the window. So, what's going to happen when they pass this bill, if they do? Hope they don't. Our children and grandchildren are going to be faced with a lifetime of higher borrowing costs. As I said, mortgage costs, costs to buy a car, costs for a credit card, harder to start a business. Every one of these will get worse. And the economic ceiling of this country will close in on itself. The economic engine that's been the driver of American innovation and growth and optimism for so many generations will sputter and ossify with this $4.45 trillion deficit explosion. It's deeply irresponsible to future generations, to our children, to our grandchildren, to pass this bill. And that's not just members on this side of the aisle saying it. Independent experts across the political spectrum, many of them very conservative Republicans, but who are at least honest about what they're doing, say it too. And plenty of Republicans in both the House and Senate have said it. It remains to be seen if their words and their actions will align. And the question is asked, has to be asked, why is this even happening? Why is this nightmare of a bill moving forward? Why are Republicans forcing our country down this ruinous road when they know the fiscal harms, when they know this is a rush job? Well, we know by now. Tax cuts to billionaires and corporate special interests. And not just another round, but in fact, they make them permanent. Our children, our grandchildren are going to be saddled with these cuts so that a handful of billionaires get a big break. While working people lose their Medicaid, while hungry kids lose access to food funding, while clean energy jobs that support so many Republican communities are taken away, I'd say to my Republican friends, when that plant that makes batteries or wind or solar or the person who's employing hundreds of people to put panels on people's roofs all fold and the people lose their jobs, don't shrug your shoulders and say, I don't know why that happened. You made it happen with a nasty bill. It just makes no sense. We need more energy, AI. Everyone says we need more energy. And to take away the cheapest, quickest way to put more electrons on the grid, solar, makes no sense, except we know Donald Trump has an irrational, infantile mania against clean energy. So they all listen to him. Makes no sense. This bill is sabotaging of America. It's the sabotaging of America. It's antithetical to what the country needs. It's antithetical to what the American people demanded last fall. And our Republican colleagues don't even want to tell the American people the truth. That's why Democrats are here on the floor today, sounding the alarm, setting the record straight. I also must say this. The way this bill is being passed so deeply violates the spirit of the Senate. The majority forgets that this chamber is unlike any other institution in government. It's meant to facilitate debate, careful consideration, sound judgment, honest numbers. We're supposed to resist the passions of the radical extreme. We're supposed to hold the line against policies that will devastate our country. We're supposed to resist the gravitational pull of extremists like Donald Trump, who gets these little bugaboos in his head and then wrecks America because of it, and they all go along. Senate Republicans are turning their back on the Senate's long-standing tradition of debate deliberation. By rushing this bill, by upending the rule of the chamber, by engaging in what amounts to accounting magic to hide the cost of their bill, Republicans, simply put, are accelerating the erosion of the Senate to the nth degree. Senate Republicans are turning their back on what makes this institution great. More importantly, they're turning their back on the people, their own constituents, in their own communities. People struggling to afford going to see a doctor. You have a child with cancer and you don't have health care? How can we put people in that position? Or families who have to choose between paying for groceries or paying for prescription drug costs, or families who are watching their electricity bills go up and up. Families who are paying more and more costs. This bill, America, you don't want to pay higher costs? We don't want you to on our side of the aisle. The Republicans are making it happen. You will pay more and more and more. And about the future, they're not worried about our kids' livelihood. They're not worried that kids won't be able to find good-paying jobs. The families are worried about the future of this country. But the Republicans are not. And they're worried, Americans are worried about the continued radicalization of leaders in government. And here's the shining example. So the bill is the wrong answer for the American people. By every objective standard, it's deeply irresponsible. It's not only a violation of how the Senate's supposed to work, it's a violation of the promises that Republicans and Donald Trump, when they campaigned, made to the American people to look after their issues, not those at the very top. So I implore my Republican colleagues, there is still time. Abandon these terrible policies. We'll continue to have this debate in a real way, not jamming it through in the dark of night. My Democratic colleagues and I will continue exposing the truth. And if Republicans go down that road, we will continue to make sure today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, that the American people know exactly what happened here. I assure my Republican colleagues, I assure them this vote will not be forgotten. Their betrayal will not go unanswered. This bill must not stand. I yield the floor.
President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Leader, for setting the record straight. It's really awful when we hear Republicans come down here and they just don't tell the truth about the bill that they are trying to pass. Maybe that's why they try to pass it in the middle of the night. They think no one will really notice.
Would the gentlelady yield?
I will.
Senator, yield. All you have to do is look at their faces.
Yeah.
They know that what they're doing. They know it's unpopular. They know they're